Hi there, I'm Laurie Williams, Administrator for the Alcohol Ink Art community, and I'm happy to be here today to participate in this collaboration we have going this week with Grafix. And I'm going to be demonstrating their mixed media journal. So Grafix Mixed Media Journal comes in a little kit, and you can actually see kind of what's in the kit here, but here's what it comes with. It comes with clear Duralar, matte Duralar, wet media Duralar, opaque white Dura-Bright, opaque black Dura-Bright, natural chipboard, and 6 disc. And it comes with 2 of each of the pieces of substrate, and then it comes with the 6 discs. So basically you use the substrate to do your projects on, and then you can use the disc to assemble them, and as you finish a project you put it together in the journal. So I'm going to go ahead and this just to show you. So this is what it looks like here, and this is actually sticking to the first page here. So the first thing we have here, this looks like the craft plastic. Oh, actually, no, this is the clear Duralar. So it says materials are packed in the order in which they're listed. So the first thing that they have here is the clear Duralar, and then they have the matte Duralar. I've definitely worked with the matte Duralar before. And then there is a wet media Duralar. This is another. No, you can't see it, so I'm going to try to turn it so it catches the light a bit because it's clear. And then we get into the opaque mediums, and this right here is the Dura-Bright, and a lot of us work on Dura-Bright. It is a non-pore surface. It works great with alcohol ink, so there's 2 sheets of that here. And then they also have the Dura-Bright in the black as well. And then they include 2 chipboards, and these will be the covers. So basically on the outside covers you'll put it together. And then it comes with these rings. I'm going to open them up so you can see. These are 6 discs. So these are the discs with the disc journal. So if you'll notice, each piece of the journal is punched. And you can actually buy a hole punch that does disc journal punching. And I think they're around $25 on Amazon. So if you find yourself doing a lot of disc journals, then that might be something of interest. But the beauty of this is that you can create your artwork and then add it to your journal as you go. And these discs just slide right into right in here, and you just you keep adding them, and then you can add each individual page as you go. So once you do your piece of art, you can add it to your journal. This kit is a great starter kit in that it has a nice variety of pieces in here, but you can actually buy additional pieces of artwork. And if you have the disc journal punch, you can use any substrate that you might work with and just punch a hole in it and add it here to your journal. So what I want to do is paint a landscape for this project. So I'm looking through all the different substrates. This is Duralar. I decided not to use that, but I'm coming to the realization that what I want to paint, I'm going to need to be able to wipe back to white. So I chose the Dura-Bright, and the Dura-Bright actually does a great job where I need to lift out alcohol ink to white. So I chose it. So I'm going to set everything else aside, and I'm going to start my landscape with it. Okay, to get started, I chose a few inks to start with. Sailboat Blue, one of my go-to blues. It's by Ranger, and I just start dripping some out onto the paper. The next one I use is Sunshine Yellow. Sunshine Yellow is another standard yellow that I use, also by Ranger. And I'm going to start off by adding a little bit of alcohol to the painting, just to get the inks flowing. And then what I like to do is rock it left to right
And I tilt it just a little bit so some of the ink can blend, and you can see that yellow and that blue always makes a nice green. And then I have a swizzle stick. It's a coffee stirrer. I call it a swizzle stick. And I just start pushing the inks around, letting them kind of do what they do, you know. I'm going to add a little orange here, just because I want to make some brownish sort of background. When you mix the blues and the orange, you always get brown. So you always, when you're doing this type of painting, you want to take in consideration your color theory. And some of that orange went a little too high up, so I'm just pushing it back down by adding a little bit more of the sailboat blue. And then I'm just going to continue rocking this back and forth until I'm happy with the flow. And also I keep working with my coffee stirrer until I'm kind of happy with it too. The ink, when you have it sort of thick like this on the paper, tends to stay wet for a while, so you can work and manipulate it, which you'll see me do here in just a moment. Adding a little bit of mushroom to the bottom. So mushroom is one of my favorite colors actually by Ranger. I use it a lot when I'm going to do like groundwork, stone. It's just it's not brown. It's more of like a mud color, but an intentional mud color. I really use it a lot for low lights in my paintings and those sort of colors. But I'm just taking the coffee stirrer and just continuing to manipulate the ink until it is dry. So I'm dropping a little bit more of the sailboat blue and the sunset orange in here so it can kind of mimic a little bit of the sky. I'm actually going to work it into this base that I have going on, and it turns a brown when you mix those two colors, but I'm also leaving a little bit of it visible. So it kind of depicts a little bit of a reflection from the sky. So next I'm going to actually take a blending pen and I'm going to lift out some trees. So I'm going to turn my painting upside down, and I just drag the blending pen down. Now this is an alcohol ink filled blending pen. They're available in a bunch of different brands and styles. This particular one that I'm using is an Artisa, and I had gotten it from Amazon, but since then I can't seem to find it. But Ohuhu now has a version of blender pens that I purchased, and I use those. And it wasn't lifting this all the way to white onto this Dura-Bright, so I decided to pull out a brush with a little bit of alcohol on it, just damp with alcohol, and it worked like a charm. It pulled the ink all the way out to white, and so I'm just going to continue with it, drawing another branch of this tree. This is going to be just like a little birch tree. There we go. I picked the pen up again to try to lift out some more. I wipe it off on the paper towel, as you can see there. This video is sped up just a little bit for the sake of time because I don't want to bore you guys with watching me lift ink. This part of it tends to take a little while, and it's not really that exciting, other than it just lifts out the color for you. So you'll see me going back and forth between the pen and the damp brush. The brush that I'm using is a filbert brush, and I actually use filbert a lot. I turn them sideways to get those straight streaks out. And then I decided I wanted to add a little bit of a water feature in my painting. So I start lifting out using the brush again with just damp with alcohol. You don't want to put too much alcohol on it, because if you do, you're gonna bloom the inks underneath more than you want. You want to make sure you have control. So you see what I'm doing. I'm just kind of dragging the damp brush across and lifting, wiping it off continuously on that paper towel to the side. So I'm going to continue lifting out this water feature. One of the things when you're painting water, the back side of the water needs to be horizontal to the horizon in order to look realistic. You don't want to paint it round. Then I actually had some blue. It looks like a teal blue. I don't even know what color. It could be mermaid. But there was a blue and a weld palette that I had. I saved my weld palettes. I let the ink dry in them so that I can reuse them again. And then there's a darker ink. There's darker blues in here, so I'm going to go around the edges with that, just so that I have some depth in here. The next thing I want to do, if you notice, I actually painted and lifted right over those little trees that I had created there. And the reason is I want it to look realistic, like the water is going behind it. And it would be very difficult for me to just take out just those sections between the trees. But that's the beauty of alcohol ink, is you can lift and then paint over and lift out again. And it's really a dance that you go back and forth with. But it's very versatile, and I think it's very forgiving as well. So I'm putting a little bit of the mushroom again into a palette, a dirty palette. And I'm going along the back side here with just dabbing. Again, I'm using that filbert brush turned on its side to get that kind of chiseled look. I find myself doing that a lot. That's just a technique that I use. I'm sure there are other ways to do it and other brushes to use. That's just what I use. And all I'm doing here is just tapping that wet alcohol ink along the back. And again, you see I'm going over those trees because I want it to look natural, as if it's going behind the trees. And the best way to do that is just to paint over what's there, because you can always lift out. That's why I chose to use this Dura-Bright, because I can lift right back out to white as soon as I'm done putting this in. And then I'm actually just carrying some of creating a little shadowing of those trees in that water. Just a hint of that with a tad of that mixture that I have in the palette there. And again, all I'm doing is tapping here. I'm not going into intricate detail or anything like that. And then I'm just dragging my brush across the bottom to make it look like there's a little bit of an embankment over there. You'll see I'm not going to use much time doing that at all. I lift back out my trees a third time. And they're getting a little fat, but I'm just not going to worry about that. You can be as detailed as you want, or you can go as quickly as you want. What I find is if you go quick and think less, you end up creating a nicer, more organic painting without too much fuss. So I'm just going to continue here, lifting out this white. I'm sorry, lifting out the alcohol ink to white. And now I'm going to give the tree some depth. I'm coming in with that same mixture of mushroom and just going around the edge of one side of the tree. And the reason I do one side of the tree is because there's always a shadow on one side of the tree. If you're not familiar with how it looks with light on a tree, take some time and go out and at the end of the day or early morning and look how the light hits the trees and how it looks. You will always notice that it'll be a grayish or a brownish color on one side, and the other side will be a much lighter color and lit. So I usually depict that with alcohol ink just this way, and it's very simple to do, just running up a little darker color along one side. And then just clean it up a little bit, not making a huge fuss, just enough to kind of depict the tree just a bit. Next, I'm going to pull out my Sharpie. So this is a twin tip Sharpie. It's got a fine tip, and then it's got a bullet, bullet nose, fine tip as well. So it's a fine, ultra fine. And it's one of my go-tos. Thank you, Terry Jones, for showing me this. I can't live without it now. It's that two-sided Sharpie. I'll include it in the supply list for this presentation in case you're interested in checking it out. But once you have it, you won't be able to live without it if you're doing this type of paintings. But I like to go and really enhance the very edges of the one side of the tree with it. It just kind of helps things pop a little bit and stand out, and helps with the shading. I also use it to draw in some branches. So you can see I'm doing that here. So I'm adding a little bit more detail in the tree. by just tossing in a few branches. Also, sometimes instead of having my hand touch the painting, I will turn the painting upside down. That allows me to paint and rest my hand on the paper towel without messing up my painting. And then I like to also go up with the same tool and just add a little bit of grassy area, darken up the edge along that tree line. And then I'm going to tap in here to add some texture. I'm trying to depict, you know, a rough terrain, maybe a little bit of rocks and stone right here in the front, just to add a little bit more interest to the painting. And all I'm doing here is just sort of just tapping a damp brush, and the ink just kind of blooms itself and creates these kind of natural looking stones. And I just keep playing with it till I'm happy with it. And then I just come back with my fine tip Sharpie once again and just add in little strokes, upward strokes, starting at the bottom and swiping up to create just little patches of grass and weeds. Kind of scribble in a little bit of detail and blend so that I get some depth a little bit there in those stones. And just adding a little bit of the darkness helps give it definition a little bit more. And then to finish off my painting, I always like to add in these a little moon, and it's really simple to do. All I do is I take a round brush and with a dot of alcohol and just tap it down, and then just lift straight up with a paper towel. That went pretty quick, but that's all I do is basically a drop of alcohol and let it bloom to the size I want it to be. I tap down with a piece of paper towel and lift straight back up. And then I can fill it in a little bit with like some gold or yellow to have a golden moon. Then I added my little birds. The birds are fun to add. They're just little V's with little wings. And then I sprinkle a little bit of alcohol to give it a little rainy, wet look. And to do this, I just have a damp brush and I just sort of pull back on it and tap my finger, and it just drops tiny little drops of alcohol, and then it takes them a minute to appear, but they show up and they look like little rain droplets. There was one thing that the video cut out on me, so I apologize, but if you look at, they have some blue leaves in the tree, so I thought I would show you kind of what I did. So I took a piece of felt and I added a little bit of denim to it. Denim is another alcohol ink color, and all I do is just tap. So if you look at that, you can see what I'm doing, and when I tap that in, it just blooms and creates little natural foliage. And I use that technique a lot when I'm painting trees, but I didn't want to forget it. I wanted to show you how I did that. Okay, moving on to the next step. There's a little bit of a problem. So this is a page in a journal. And in a journal, people flip the pages and look what they're going to see when they look at the back side. So I decided to place my piece of felt that I used to tap in my trees onto my little block here. You can use, there's you can buy the applicator that has felt. I made my own. It's just a wooden block with some Velcro, and then I just attached the felt. But I'm adding to that blue that's already on there, I added some sunshine yellow, and I'm just going to tap the whole back side of it and fill this whole thing up with that color. And then actually this gives me a great opportunity for me to show you another product that Grafix has. What I decided to do with this, and I'm going to show you this in just a second, is I'm going to create a little just kind of like stamped background here by just tapping alcohol ink from felt onto the page and letting it bloom and filling up the page as a backdrop. And then I'm going to actually attach a quote or a little sentiment onto the front of it, just so that when someone flips that page, they don't see an ugly background with ink stain that's left over from the front side.
So I printed out a little saying here on some cardstock. So I figured this would give me an opportunity to demonstrate another product by Grafix called Artist-tac. So I'm just going to kind of cut out this. I'm not doing it straight. I'm going to give it some like rounded edges, just some interesting border here. And I'm going to open up my Artist-tac. Here we go. I'm going to peel back just a portion of this. And you will see that there's this sort of dotted texture in here. And what we do is we take what we want to make adhesive and stick down, which we're going to burnish this down a bit with my finger. I can take the back side here of a brush and just go over here. Alright, so I burnish that down. And now when I pick it up, the adhesive sticks to the back. I can cover this back up so I can come back and use it again. But now all I need to do is take this, it's sticky, and stick it down on my back side here. I'm going to get rid of some of the nasties that showed up on here. Little pieces of dust and okay, so I'm going to just take my Sharpie again, and I'm just going to go around the edge. That makes it stand out a little nicer. So there, I got the back side of this journal page. And again, that product that I used for that was pretty cool. It is called Artist-tac, and it's another product by Grafix, and it allows you to adhere pieces of artwork. Okay, now I'm ready to assemble my disc journal, and I'm going to take one of the pieces of chipboard, and I'm going to place, this is just the first page. I can add to this later. This is just my first page in my journal that I've done. And I'm going to go ahead and put it between these two pieces of chipboard. I am going to actually use a piece of the clear plastic to cover this up so it doesn't scratch. Or if I wanted to draw on top of it, I could do that too. So you could have a layered drawing journal, which could be a lot of fun. The other thing is I could use the Artist-tac and take another piece of artwork and decorate my journal cover, which is this piece of chipboard. I could do that. That would be great. I always like to make the cover pretty, and I use different mixed media techniques to do that, using alcohol and other mediums as well. But then I have these little discs, so I'm going to go ahead and assemble this so you can see quickly how this works. So I've got all my pieces here. I'm going to hold it like this, and I'm just going to take, each one of these discs has a little lip on it on the outside, and it's indented in the inside. It's identical on both sides. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to just kind of force it in there like that. There we go, and then straighten it up. So I've got that side. I'm going to go ahead and do this other far end here. See if I can layer it down here a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm taking it and just kind of forcing it in and then turning it into the area. So it spins freely. So that way the pages will open and close, and I can continue adding more. So I'm going to go ahead and put all these in for you. Just kind of have to wiggle it in there a bit. There we go. So now I have my disc journal together, and I can continue adding artwork as I add it in. I have all of these sheets that come with the kit. So I have lots of substrate that I can do fun projects on. You could follow my channel at Laurie Trumpet here on YouTube, and I'll do some more of these pages for on the channel there, and you can check it out. Also, if you are watching here on the Alcohol Ink Art Community YouTube channel, a couple of things I'd like to point out. One is, if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe already, because we're going to be posting a lot more regularly this year. We have a whole year's worth of content scheduled for the YouTube channel, and you will learn a lot about all the different ways you can use alcohol ink, which is a very versatile medium. You'll also learn not only from me, obviously, but from our whole entire contributor team, who are some of the best alcohol ink artists and instructors in the world. So this is definitely a channel that you want to follow. The other thing is, if you like alcohol ink, you paint and create with alcohol ink, you want to learn more about alcohol ink, we do have the Alcohol Ink Art Community page on group on Facebook, and we also have a website, and it's alcoholink.community. So check those out. Those are great resources for learning all sorts of things about alcohol ink and painting with alcohol ink.
Come learn, create, and share with us. It's a life-changing opportunity. Excite the artist with